people are born in the same year. They grow up in the same city. They wake up every morning with the same 24 hours. At the beginning, nothing separates them. They have similar energy, similar dreams, and similar fear about the future. But as time passes, their lives begin to look very different. One feels trapped, always worried about bills, always working but never feeling secure. The other slowly becomes free. Not overnight, not by luck, but by understanding something the first person never learned. Here is the uncomfortable question. If money is everywhere, why do so few people understand it? Why do some people struggle for decades while others seem to move ahead calmly, even during hard times? The answer is simpler than most people expect. Money is not about talent, it is not about intelligence, and it is definitely not about luck. Money is a skill-based game. Like any game, it has rules. Those rules do not care about your background, your school, or your opinions. They reward certain behaviors and punish others. The problem is not that the game is unfair. The problem is that most people were never taught how to play. This is not motivation. This is not fantasy. This is a map. In this video, you will learn 14 rules about money that the rich learned over time, quietly, patiently, often after many mistakes. These rules are not secrets, they are patterns, and once you see them, you cannot unsee them. Rule 1. Stop watching other players. Most people do not realize they are living as spectators in their own financial life. They wake up, scroll through their phone, and absorb stories about other people's success. They know who bought a new house, who started a business, who is traveling, who became rich. They can name influencers, founders, and millionaires with perfect detail. Yet, when asked a simple question, "Where is your own life going?" they hesitate. The spectator life feels busy, but it has no direction. Spectators spend enormous mental energy watching other players. They compare lifestyles, salaries, titles, and timelines. They say things like, "He was lucky," or "She had help," or "That could never be me." Comparison becomes their daily habit. At first, it feels harmless, even motivating, but slowly it steals something critical: focus. Every minute spent measuring someone else's progress is a minute stolen from building your own, and progress cannot exist without focus. A player lives differently. A player still notices the world, but does not live inside it. Instead of asking, "Why them?" a player asks, "What can I learn?" Instead of watching highlights, a player studies skills. Instead of scrolling endlessly, a player builds quietly. Players understand that energy is limited. They protect it, they aim it, they use it to move one square forward on the board every day. The danger of the spectator life is not jealousy. The real danger is distraction. When your attention is always outside, your growth stops inside. You begin to feel busy but stuck, informed but powerless. You consume ideas, videos, opinions, and advice, but nothing changes. Consumption creates the illusion of progress without the discomfort of action. That illusion is comfortable, and comfort is why many people stay spectators for life. Focus, on the other hand, feels boring. It feels repetitive. It feels slow. But focus compounds. When you focus on one skill, one direction, one small goal, something powerful happens. Your actions start to align. Your confidence grows. Your results, even small ones, begin to appear. And results create momentum. Momentum turns effort into identity. You stop thinking like a watcher and start thinking like a player. This rule is simple but uncomfortable. Stop counting other people's money. Stop tracking other people's timelines. Stop measuring your worth against someone else's highlight reel. None of that helps you move forward. The game does not reward observers. It rewards participants. It rewards those who place pieces on the board, make moves, make mistakes, and learn. Remember this anchor and return to it often. Watchers consume. Players create. Every time you feel pulled into comparison, ask yourself one honest question. Am I watching or am I playing? The moment you choose to play, the game finally begins. Choosing to play does not mean instant success. It means responsibility. It means fewer opinions, fewer excuses, and fewer distractions. It means replacing passive consumption with deliberate action. One page written, one skill practiced, one decision made without applause. Over time, these small moves separate players from spectators. Not intelligence, not luck, direction. When you stop watching others move and start moving yourself, clarity replaces confusion, progress replaces noise, and the game finally becomes yours. This single shift marks the true beginning of wealth, discipline, confidence, and long-term freedom for those who commit. Rule 2. Money moves toward problems. There are two types of people in every room. The first looks for comfort. When something feels difficult, confusing, or unfamiliar, they step back. They say, "That's too hard," or "That's not for me." They choose what feels safe, even if it keeps them small. Over time, their life becomes predictable, calm on the surface, but limited underneath. They work, they survive, and they quietly accept that money will always feel tight. The second type reacts differently. When they encounter confusion, they lean in. When something breaks, they ask why. When others complain, they listen carefully. They do not enjoy problems, but they are curious about them. Where others see stress, they see signals. Where others feel overwhelmed, they feel challenged. This difference, more than talent or intelligence, determines who earns more over time. Money does not move toward ease. It moves toward friction. It flows toward places where something is broken, inefficient, painful, slow, or unclear. This is why avoiding problems feels good in the short term, but costs you in the long term. When you run from problems, you also run from opportunity. Comfort protects your emotions, but problems build your value. Think about everyday life. People are frustrated because something wastes their time, something costs too much, something is confusing, something does not work the way it should. Most people complain and move on. A small number ask a different question. Can this be improved? That question is the beginning of income. Not because it is magical, but because value is created when pain is reduced. The person who avoids hard things stays dependent. They wait for instructions. They wait for permission. They wait for someone else to solve the problem. The person who runs toward confusion becomes useful. They learn faster because they are forced to. They grow stronger because resistance demands adaptation. They become valuable not by knowing everything, but by being willing to figure things out. Problems are not signs that you are failing. They are signs that you are standing at the edge of growth. Every skill that pays well exists because a problem exists. Writing exists because people cannot explain clearly. Design exists because things look confusing or unattractive. Technology exists because systems are slow or broken. Coaching exists because people feel stuck. Remove the problem, and the money disappears. This is why complaining is dangerous. Complaints waste energy that could be converted into solutions. When you complain, you stay small. When you solve, you grow. Even solving small problems builds momentum. One solution leads to confidence. Confidence leads to better questions. Better questions lead to bigger problems. Bigger problems lead to more value. This is how income expands naturally over time. The mindset shift is simple but powerful. Stop asking, how do I avoid this? Start asking, what is this teaching me? Stop saying, this is stressful. Start saying, this is useful. When you train your mind this way, the world looks different. You begin to notice opportunities hidden inside frustration. You stop fearing difficulty and start respecting it. Remember this clearly and repeat it until it changes how you think. Every problem is a paycheck wearing a disguise. The bigger the problem you can handle, the more value you can create. And the more value you create, the more the game of money begins to work in your favor, quietly and consistently over time. Rule 3. If money is the goal, you will never have enough. Two people start their careers at the same time. They sit in the same orientation room, hear the same advice, and feel the same pressure to succeed. But very early, their thinking splits in two different directions. The first person decides that money is the goal. They ask, which job pays more? Which industry is hot right now? How can I make the fastest income? Every decision is filtered through one question: how much does it pay? The second person asks a different question. They ask, what skill can I become excellent at? What problem do I enjoy solving? What can I learn that will still matter in 10 years? Money is not ignored, but it is not the center. Growth is. Mastery is. Depth is. At first, the money chaser appears to be winning. They jump to better paying roles. They switch paths often. They chase trends. Their income rises quickly, but so does their anxiety. They worry about the next move, the next offer, the next comparison. Every gain creates a new fear of loss. They earn more, but peace never arrives. Enough is always just one step away. The mastery builder moves slower in the beginning. They accept average pay while they learn. They stay longer in one place. They practice the same skill repeatedly. From the outside, it looks unimpressive, but something invisible is happening. Their competence is growing. Their confidence is stabilizing. Their value is compounding quietly. 5 years later, the difference becomes clear. The money chaser feels stuck despite earning more than before. Their skills are shallow. Their resume is wide but thin. They are replaceable because they never became exceptional. The mastery builder, however, is now rare. They solve problems faster. They think more clearly. People seek their opinion. Opportunities begin to find them without chasing. This is the rule most people never understand. Money does not respond well to being hunted. When you chase it directly, you make short-term decisions. You trade long-term strength for quick wins. You optimize for speed instead of substance. Over time, this creates instability. You may earn more, but you never feel secure. Money follows value. Value follows skill. Skill follows time, focus, and deliberate effort. This chain cannot be skipped. When your primary goal is mastery, money becomes a byproduct. When your primary goal is money, mastery is neglected, and income eventually stalls. People who only chase money often ask, why do I still feel empty? The answer is simple. Money without purpose has no ceiling. It never feels complete. But value creation gives direction. It gives meaning to effort. It turns work into contribution, not just survival. This does not mean money is not important. It means money is a tool, not a destination. When you build something useful, when you become excellent at a skill that solves real problems, money arrives naturally, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, but when it comes, it stays longer because it is supported by real value. Remember the anchor clearly and return to it when temptation appears. Chase money and it runs. Build value and it follows. The game rewards those who invest in depth over speed, skill over shortcuts, and mastery over noise. When you stop asking how to get rich fast and start asking how to become valuable, you stop feeling hungry all the time. And for the first time, enough begins to feel real. Rule 4. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room to win the money game. In fact, overthinking is one of the most common reasons people stay stuck. Imagine two people standing at the same starting line. The first is an overthinker. They read endlessly, watch tutorials, analyze risks, and wait for the perfect moment. They want certainty before action. The second is an experimenter. They know less, but they move. They test small ideas, make mistakes, adjust, and move again. At the beginning, the overthinker feels safe. They feel prepared. They feel intelligent. The experimenter feels uncomfortable. Nothing is guaranteed. But while the overthinker is still planning, the experimenter is collecting feedback from reality. And reality is the only teacher that matters in the money game. Money does not reward intelligence alone. It rewards motion. It rewards people who take steps, observe results, and adapt quickly. Intelligence without action becomes procrastination disguised as preparation. Many people confuse thinking with progress. They say, I'm learning, but nothing in their life changes. No new skill is tested, no value is offered, no risk is taken. The experimenter understands a simple truth. You do not need to be right to move forward. You need to move forward to get closer to being right. Every action produces data. Every mistake reduces uncertainty. Each small attempt makes the next attempt smarter. This is why consistency beats talent. Talent without repetition fades. Average effort, repeated daily, compounds into skill. History proves this pattern again and again. Many successful builders were not top students. They were curious, persistent, and willing to look foolish early. While others waited to feel ready, they entered the game. They failed publicly, they learned privately. Over time, their behavior created advantages that intelligence alone could not. The overthinker often asks, what if this fails? The experimenter asks, what if this works? That difference shapes everything. Fear keeps the overthinker trapped in potential. Action pulls the experimenter into progress. Even failed attempts create momentum because momentum builds confidence. Confidence reduces fear. Reduced fear increases speed. This rule does not encourage recklessness. It encourages movement. Smart movement is small, controlled, and repeatable. One message sent, one product tested, one skill practiced, one decision made without waiting for approval. These actions look insignificant, but they rewire identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who plans and start seeing yourself as someone who does. Money responds to behavior patterns, not bots. It responds to showing up, following through, and improving slightly each time. People who move consistently build trust with themselves. That trust becomes discipline. Discipline creates reliability. Reliability creates opportunity. Remember this anchor when doubt appears. Money does not reward intelligence. It rewards behavior. You do not win by thinking harder. You win by acting sooner and learning faster. Start before you feel ready. Move before you feel confident. Progress belongs to those who stay in motion long enough to let consistency turn effort into results. Behavior repeated daily becomes identity over time, and identity shapes income more than ideas ever will. When movement becomes a habit, fear loses control, hesitation shrinks, and momentum takes over. This is how ordinary people outperform geniuses who never act, simply by staying in the game longer through patience, repetition, discipline, resilience, learning, correction, humility, and time. Rule 5. Your beliefs write your bank balance. Most people believe their income is controlled by the economy, their job, or their education. Very few realize it is first controlled by sentences they heard as children. Simple phrases spoken casually become invisible rules that run adult lives. Money doesn't grow on trees. Corresponding, we're not rich people. That's too expensive. People like us don't do that. These words sound harmless, but they quietly install limits long before a person ever earns their first dollar. As children, we do not question these phrases, we absorb them. Our brain treats them as facts, not opinions. Over time, they turn into beliefs, and beliefs become automatic filters. They decide what feels possible, what feels risky, and what feels forbidden. By the time someone is an adult, these beliefs operate silently in the background, guiding decisions without asking for permission. An adult may say they want more money, but their beliefs argue back. When an opportunity appears, the belief whispers, "That's not for you." When success gets close, another belief says, "You'll probably lose it anyway." When growth requires discomfort, the belief says, "Stay safe." The person thinks they are making rational choices, but in reality, they are obeying old programming. This is why two people with the same skills and opportunities can earn very different incomes. One believes money is a tool. The other believes money is dangerous. One believes skills can be learned. The other believes talent is fixed. One believes effort leads to progress. The other believes effort leads to disappointment. These beliefs shape decisions. Decisions shape behavior. Behavior shapes income. Beliefs are powerful because they feel true. You do not hear them as thoughts, you feel them as instincts. That is why people self-sabotage without realizing it. They procrastinate when things start working. They underprice their work. They avoid responsibility. They reject growth disguised as stress. Not because they are lazy or incapable, but because their internal equation is broken. Think of the mind like a calculator. If the formula is wrong, the result will always be wrong, no matter how hard you try. You can work longer hours, learn new skills, and chase opportunities, but if the belief underneath says, "I don't deserve this," or "this is too risky," the outcome will always return to the same level. This is why effort without belief change often leads to frustration. Changing beliefs does not mean pretending or repeating empty affirmations. It means examining evidence. It means asking, "Who taught me this? Is this always true? Does this belief help or limit me?" When a belief no longer serves growth, it must be replaced with one that does. Old belief: money is hard to earn. New belief: money follows value, and value can be learned. Old belief: rich people are greedy. New belief: money amplifies who you already are. When beliefs shift, decisions shift. When decisions shift, behavior changes naturally. You take opportunities you once avoided. You price your work with confidence. You invest time instead of wasting it. You stay consistent instead of quitting early. Income rises not because luck changed, but because behavior aligned with new thinking. Remember this anchor clearly and return to it often. Change the equation, change the result. Your bank balance is not just a number. It is a reflection of what you believe is possible, allowed, and deserved. When you rewrite those invisible rules, you stop fighting yourself. And when the mind and behavior move in the same direction, money has no choice but to follow over time. Rule 6. Problems are future businesses. Most people experience problems all day long without realizing what they are seeing. They complain about slow service, confusing websites, outdated systems, poor communication, wasted time, and constant frustration. They say things like, "This is annoying," or "Why does it work like this?" Then they move on. The moment passes, the opportunity disappears. Complaints become background noise, not signals. Builders hear the same complaints, but their mind reacts differently. They do not hear frustration as noise, they hear it as information. Every complaint is data. Every frustration points to something broken, inefficient, or incomplete. Where most people feel irritation, builders feel curiosity. They ask a simple question: why hasn't this been solved better? That question is the seed of every business that has ever existed. Look at everyday life. People complain about waiting too long, paying too much, or not understanding how something works. They complain about fitness programs that fail, education that feels boring, customer service that feels robotic, and tools that are too complicated. None of these complaints are new. What is rare is the person who decides to act instead of complain. Most people are trained to avoid responsibility. When they see a problem, they say, "That's not my job," or "Someone should fix this." Builders think differently. They say, "Maybe I can try." They do not need a perfect solution. They start with a small improvement, a clearer explanation, a faster process, a simpler design, a more human approach. Small solutions create trust. Trust creates demand. This is how businesses are born, not from big ideas, but from repeated exposure to small problems. A person notices the same frustration again and again. They learn about it, they experiment, they help one person, then another. Over time, a pattern forms. A service becomes a product. A solution becomes a system. What started as a complaint turns into income. The difference between a complainer and a builder is not intelligence, it is attention. Complainers focus on how bad things are. Builders focus on how things could be better. Complaining releases emotion. Building requires effort. One feels good for a moment, the other creates value for years. That is why most people stay stuck and a few move forward. Builders also understand that problems do not need to be huge to be profitable. Solving a small problem for many people creates stability. Solving a painful problem for a few creates leverage. Both are valid. What matters is the willingness to engage instead of escape. Each solved problem increases skill. Each skill increases confidence. Confidence attracts more complex problems. This is how growth compounds. The world does not reward people who notice problems. It rewards people who reduce pain. Anyone can complain. Few are willing to learn, test, and take responsibility for outcomes. That willingness separates players from spectators. Builders accept that solutions will be imperfect at first. They improve through feedback, not fantasy. When you change how you see problems, your environment changes. Daily life becomes a map of opportunities. Every frustration becomes a question. Every question becomes a potential solution. You stop waiting for permission and start creating relevance. This is how ordinary people build extraordinary outcomes over time. Remember this anchor and repeat it until it becomes instinct. Where others complain, players build. The next time you feel annoyed, pause. Ask what is broken. Ask who is suffering. Ask what small step could help. You may not build a company tomorrow, but you will start thinking like a builder today. And once you think like a builder, income stops being mysterious. It becomes the natural result of paying attention, taking responsibility, and turning everyday problems into lasting value. Rule 7. One income is a fragile game. For many people, security feels simple. Get a job, do it well, stay loyal, get paid every month. For years, this story works. The paycheck arrives on time, bills are covered, life feels stable. Then, one morning, an email arrives. The company is restructuring. The department is closing. The position is no longer needed. Overnight, the single stream of income disappears. This moment shocks people not because they are lazy or unskilled, but because they believed loyalty equals security. They gave time, energy, and identity to one source of income, assuming it would protect them. But the modern world does not reward loyalty the way it once did. Companies adapt, markets change, technology replaces roles. Stability built on one stream is an illusion. When income comes from only one place, fear controls decisions. You hesitate to speak up. You avoid learning new things. You say yes to work you hate because losing the paycheck feels terrifying. Even when the job pays well, dependence creates fragility. You may look stable, but one disruption can collapse everything. People with multiple income streams experience the world differently. They are not fearless, but they are flexible. If one stream slows down, others continue. If a job ends, skills and side income soften the impact. This is not about greed or working non-stop. It is about resilience. Security does not come from loyalty to one employer. It comes from diversity of value. Multiple income does not mean chaos. It starts small. A skill offered online, a service on weekends, a digital product created once and sold many times, an investment that grows quietly. Each stream is a backup, not a burden. Together, they form a safety net that reduces fear and increases choice. People often say they do not have time for another income, but the truth is they do not have time to depend on only one. 1 hour invested weekly compounds over years. The goal is not exhaustion. The goal is optionality. When you are not desperate, you make better decisions. When you are not trapped, you grow faster. Diversity also changes identity. You stop seeing yourself as an employee and start seeing yourself as a creator. Even small income from your own effort builds confidence. It proves you can generate value without permission. That confidence changes how you negotiate, learn, and plan. It shifts you from survival to strategy. History favors those who spread risk. Farmers plant more than one crop. Investors diversify portfolios. Businesses create multiple revenue lines. Income is no different. Putting everything into one stream feels simple, but simplicity without backup is dangerous. Complexity with structure creates durability. This rule is not about quitting your job tomorrow. It is about preparing quietly, building one stream, then another, learning how money can flow from different directions, using one income to build the next. Over time, dependence decreases and freedom increases. Remember this anchor clearly and return to it when comfort makes you careless. One stream dries fast. Many streams survive storms. The world is uncertain, but preparation reduces panic. When income is diversified, setbacks become manageable instead of catastrophic. You stop fearing change and start using it. And in a game where rules keep shifting, the player who builds resilience instead of relying on loyalty is the one who stays standing long after others are forced to exit. Rule 8. Taste the fruit, don't worship the tree. Some people do everything right and still feel wrong inside. They work hard, save carefully, invest consistently, and follow every rule of discipline they were taught. From the outside, they look successful. From the inside, they feel empty. Life becomes a checklist of responsibilities with no color. Joy is postponed. Rest feels undeserved. Pleasure feels irresponsible. They are building wealth that they are forgetting to live. This is the disciplined worker who worships the tree but never tastes the fruit. They tell themselves, not now, later. Later when the numbers are higher. Later when everything feels secure. Later when work finally slows down. But later keeps moving. Years pass. Energy fades. Moments are missed. And the wealth that was meant to bring freedom becomes another form of control. Discipline is powerful, but discipline without meaning turns into a cage. Many people believe suffering is the price of success, so they normalize exhaustion. They deny themselves small rewards. They ignore relationships. They treat life like a waiting room instead of an experience. Over time, they forget why they started building in the first place. Wealth without joy is not freedom. It is delayed living. It is choosing safety over presence. Money becomes something to protect, not something to use. This creates a strange contradiction. The person is rich on paper, but poor in moments. They own assets, but not memories. They have discipline, but no delight. Money is not meant to be worshipped. It is meant to serve. It is a tool for choice, a tool for comfort, a tool for experiences that deepen life. When money stops serving life and life starts serving money, the system is broken. The tree has grown strong, but the fruit is rotting. Enjoyment does not mean recklessness. Tasting the fruit does not mean burning the tree. Balance is the lesson. Take the trip without guilt. Celebrate progress without shame. Rest without apology. These actions do not weaken discipline. They sustain it. Joy is fuel, not distraction. People who allow themselves to enjoy responsibly stay in the game longer. They avoid burnout. They remember their purpose. They connect effort to meaning. This makes discipline sustainable instead of punishing. When life feels worth living now, patience becomes easier. Long-term thinking becomes natural. Money should shorten the distance between effort and meaning, not stretch it endlessly. If every sacrifice is for a future that never arrives, motivation slowly dies. But when effort creates both progress and presence, the system stays alive. You build and live at the same time. This rule asks a simple but uncomfortable question. If money disappeared tomorrow, what moments would you regret not taking? What conversations did you postpone? What experiences did you delay? Wealth is not measured only by accumulation. It is measured by how fully you live while building. Remember this anchor and return to it often. Money is a tool for living, not delaying life. Build the tree with care. Water it with discipline. But when it bears fruit, taste it, share it, enjoy it. Because the goal is not to reach the end with the biggest numbers. The goal is to arrive having lived, not waited. Rule 9. Learn the money map. One person earns more money every year, yet never feels free. Their salary increases, their lifestyle expands, and their stress quietly grows with it. They buy nicer things, take on bigger payments, and wonder why they still feel trapped. On paper, they look successful. In reality, they are running faster on the same treadmill, exhausted and confused about where the money goes. This confusion comes from not knowing the money map. Most people are taught how to earn, but not how money moves. They believe higher income automatically means wealth. It does not. Without understanding assets, liabilities, and cash flow, earning more can actually make you poorer. More money enters, but even more flows out. Assets are simple. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket without demanding your time every hour. It might be a small business that runs with systems, an investment that pays dividends, or a digital product that sells repeatedly. Assets create cash flow. They work while you rest. They turn effort from the past into income in the present. Liabilities do the opposite. They take money out of your pocket and give nothing back financially. Large loans, constant upgrades, high interest debt, and expensive habits drain cash quietly. Many liabilities look impressive. They signal success to others, but privately they reduce freedom. If something costs you money every month and does not generate income, it is not helping you move forward. Cash flow is the difference between what comes in and what goes out. This is the most important number in the game. Someone can earn $10,000 a month and feel broke if almost all of it disappears. Another person can earn far less, save consistently, invest wisely, and build assets that slowly grow. Over time, the second person becomes free while the first remains trapped. The money map explains why this happens. Freedom is not created by income alone. It is created when assets grow, liabilities stay controlled, and cash flow remains positive. When cash flow is healthy, stress decreases, decisions improve, time opens up. When cash flow is negative, even a high income feels fragile. Most people never draw this map. They only chase raises and promotions. They never ask where their money is flowing or what it is building. Without a map, every financial decision feels emotional and reactive. With a map, choices become strategic. Learning the money map changes behavior. You start asking different questions. Will this purchase increase or reduce my future options? Does this expense support freedom or comfort only today? Can this money be turned into something that pays me back? These questions protect progress better than discipline alone. This rule is not about perfection. It is about awareness. Once you see how money moves, you cannot ignore it. You stop being impressed by income numbers and start respecting cash flow. You stop guessing and start measuring. Remember this anchor clearly. It's not how much you earn, it's how money moves. When you understand the map, you stop running blind. You stop working harder without direction. You begin building a system where money flows toward freedom instead of away from it, steadily, quietly, and on purpose. This understanding transforms effort into intention, intention into structure, and structure into lasting financial independence over time gradually. Rule 10. Systems beat hard work. At the beginning, hard work feels like the answer to everything. The hustler wakes up early, works late, and fills every hour with effort. They stay busy, exhausted, and proud of how much they sacrifice. From the outside, they look committed. From the inside, they feel constantly behind. No matter how hard they work, there is always more to do, more pressure, and less energy. Then there is the calm builder. They do not rush. They are not loud about effort. Their days look lighter, almost slower, but results keep appearing. Income grows, stress stays low. While the hustler runs faster, the builder moves further. The difference is not motivation, it is systems. Hard work is important, but hard work without a system is like pouring water into a bucket with holes. You expend energy, but nothing stays. Many people confuse effort with progress. They believe exhaustion is proof they are winning. In reality, exhaustion is often proof that the structure is broken. A system is a repeatable process that produces results with less effort over time. It removes constant decision-making. It reduces emotional swings. It creates consistency, even on bad days. The hustler decides everything in the moment, what to do today, what to focus on, what to fix. That constant decision-making drains energy and creates chaos. The builder designs first, then executes. They set routines, they automate where possible, they repeat what works instead of reinventing daily. Their success does not depend on motivation, it depends on structure. This is why systems scale. Once built, they work again and again. Hustle depends on willpower. Willpower is limited. When life gets difficult, hustle collapses. Systems depend on design. Design holds even when energy is low. That is why hustlers burn out and builders last. Burnout is not a failure of effort, it is a failure of structure. Think about businesses that dominate entire industries. They are not powered by harder working employees. They are powered by better systems, consistent processes, clear workflows, predictable outcomes. The same principle applies to personal income. Without systems, effort stays trapped at the same level. With systems, effort compounds. The exhausted hustler often says, "I'll rest later." The builder rests strategically now so they can last longer. The hustler reacts to problems. The builder anticipates them. The hustler feels busy. The builder feels in control. Control is what creates freedom. Systems can be simple, saving a fixed percentage automatically, practicing one skill at the same time every day, posting content on a schedule instead of randomly, tracking expenses weekly instead of guessing. These small systems remove friction. Over time, they produce big results. Hard work gets you noticed. Systems keep you paid. Hard work may open the door, but systems keep you inside the game. Without systems, success depends on mood, energy, and luck. With systems, success becomes predictable. This rule does not tell you to stop working hard. It tells you to work hard once to build a system, then let the system carry the load. That shift changes everything. Effort becomes investment instead of sacrifice. Remember this anchor clearly. Hard work gets you in. Systems let you win. If you are always tired, always rushing, and always stressed, do not ask for more motivation. Ask for better systems. When structure replaces chaos, calm replaces stress. And when calm guides action, progress becomes inevitable, sustainable, and repeatable over time without destroying the person building it. Rule 11. Skills are the ultimate asset. Two people lose everything at the same time. A company collapses, savings shrink, titles disappear overnight. The first person panics. Their identity was tied to a job title, a company name, and a position on a chart. Without those, they feel invisible. They wait for someone to rescue them. Weeks pass. Confidence drops. Options feel limited. The second person also feels fear, but they move differently. They assess what they can still do. They list their skills. They reach out. They offer value. Within weeks, they find work. Not because the world is kind, but because skills create demand. One person is stuck. The other is rebuilding. The difference is not luck. It is leverage. Titles are fragile. They exist only within systems that can change or disappear. A manager in one company may be irrelevant in another. A degree may lose value as industries shift. A reputation tied to one organization cannot travel far. Skills are different. Skills move with you. They adapt. They transfer across roles, markets, and environments. Money is temporary. It can be lost through bad decisions, market shifts, or unexpected events. Skills remain. Even if money disappears, skills can recreate it. This is why skilled people are dangerous in the best way. They are resilient. They are not dependent on one employer, one location, or one system. Many people spend years protecting income but neglecting skills. They chase stability instead of capability. When stability breaks, they feel helpless. The skilled person feels challenged, not defeated. They understand that competence creates options. Options create freedom. Skills also compound. The more you practice, the more valuable you become. Skills sharpen judgment. They improve problem solving. They increase speed. Over time, skill replaces effort. What once took hours takes minutes. What once required supervision becomes automatic. This efficiency is why skilled people earn more without working more. The world quietly rewards those who can do things well, not those with impressive labels, but those who solve problems effectively. Writing clearly, designing simply, teaching patiently, selling honestly, managing calmly. These abilities create value in any economy. They are always needed. Learning skills requires humility. You must be willing to be bad before being good. Many people avoid this stage because it hurts their ego. They prefer the comfort of a title over the discomfort of learning. This choice costs them long-term power. When you invest in skills, you invest in independence. You stop asking who will hire you and start asking who you can help. You stop fearing change and start adapting to it. Skills turn uncertainty into opportunity. This rule reframes security. Security is not a paycheck. It is competence. It is knowing that no matter what happens, you can rebuild. That confidence changes how you walk, speak, and decide. It reduces fear and increases clarity. Remember this anchor and repeat it until it becomes belief. Money can disappear. Skills cannot. Titles fade, markets shift, systems break, but a skilled person is never finished. They may lose money, time, or status, but they never lose the ability to create value again. And in a world that changes faster every year, that ability is the most valuable asset you can own, protect, and grow deliberately over time. Rule 12. Losing is part of the game. A child learning to walk falls again and again. They do not stop to question their ability. They do not feel ashamed. They do not announce that walking is not for them. They fall, adjust, stand up, and try again. No one calls those falls failures. Everyone understands they are part of learning. Yet when adults lose money, make mistakes, or fail at something new, they treat it as proof that they should stop. This difference explains why so many people quit the money game early. They expect progress to be clean and predictable. When reality delivers loss, they panic. They attach meaning to the mistake. They say, "I'm bad at this," or "this isn't for me." What should have been feedback becomes a final judgment. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is information. Every loss reveals something useful: a weak system, a wrong assumption, a missing skill, a bad decision. Without loss, feedback disappears. Without feedback, improvement stops. The people who grow fastest are not those who avoid mistakes, but those who study them without emotion. The money game punishes pride and rewards adaptation. Losing money teaches risk management. Failed projects teach market reality. Rejected ideas teach clarity. These lessons are expensive, but they are valuable. They only become wasteful when someone quits before applying what they learned. Most people do not lose because they are incapable. They lose because they stop too soon. One failure convinces them they are not meant to play. They retreat to safety. They wait. They watch others move forward. But certainty never appears through waiting. It appears through repetition. Quitting destroys momentum. It breaks confidence. It resets learning back to zero. Every time someone quits, starting again becomes harder. Fear grows. Doubt deepens. What feels like protection in the moment becomes a permanent barrier later. This is why quitting is the most expensive decision in the game. Players see losses differently. They expect them. They budget for mistakes mentally. When something goes wrong, they ask better questions. What happened? What did this teach me? What will I do differently next time? This mindset turns pain into progress. Society often celebrates winners without showing the struggle underneath. This creates false expectations. Real progress is messy. It includes embarrassment, regret, and setbacks. But those who stay in the game long enough develop judgment. Judgment cannot be downloaded. It must be earned through experience. Loss also builds resilience. Each recovery strengthens confidence. You stop fearing failure because you have survived it before. That courage allows bolder decisions. Bolder decisions increase learning speed. Over time, what once felt devastating becomes manageable. This rule does not encourage reckless behavior. It encourages persistence with reflection. Losing without learning is waste. Losing with learning is growth. The difference is intention. Intention transforms pain into progress. Remember this anchor and return to it when disappointment appears. Every loss teaches. Every quit erases. Falling does not end the game. Refusing to stand does. The people who succeed are rarely the ones who avoid failure. They are the ones who keep moving after it, carrying lessons instead of shame. When you accept losing as part of the process, fear loosens its grip. And when fear loses power, progress becomes inevitable over time. A child learning to walk falls again and again. They do not stop to question their ability. They do not feel ashamed. They do not announce that walking is not for them. They fall, adjust, stand up, and try again. No one calls those falls failures. Everyone understands they are part of learning. Yet when adults lose money, make mistakes, or fail at something new, they treat it as proof that they should stop. This difference explains why so many people quit the money game early. They expect progress to be clean and predictable. When reality delivers loss, they panic. They attach meaning to the mistake. They say, "I'm bad at this," or "this isn't for me." What should have been feedback becomes a final judgment. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is information. Every loss reveals something useful: a weak system, a wrong assumption, a missing skill, a bad decision. Without loss, feedback disappears. Without feedback, improvement stops. The people who grow fastest are not those who avoid mistakes, but those who study them without emotion. The money game punishes pride and rewards adaptation. Losing money teaches risk management. Failed projects teach market reality. Rejected ideas teach clarity. These lessons are expensive, but they are valuable. They only become wasteful when someone quits before applying what they learned. Most people do not lose because they are incapable. They lose because they stop too soon. One failure convinces them they are not meant to play. They retreat to safety. They wait. They watch others move forward. But certainty never appears through waiting. It appears through repetition. Quitting destroys momentum. It breaks confidence. It resets learning back to zero. Every time someone quits, starting again becomes harder. Fear grows. Doubt deepens. What feels like protection in the moment becomes a permanent barrier later. This is why quitting is the most expensive decision in the game. Players see losses differently. They expect them. They budget for mistakes mentally. When something goes wrong, they ask better questions. What happened? What did this teach me? What will I do differently next time? This mindset turns pain into progress. Society often celebrates winners without showing the struggle underneath. This creates false expectations. Real progress is messy. It includes embarrassment, regret, and setbacks. But those who stay in the game long enough develop judgment. Judgment cannot be downloaded. It must be earned through experience. Loss also builds resilience. Each recovery strengthens confidence. You stop fearing failure because you have survived it before. That courage allows bolder decisions. Bolder decisions increase learning speed. Over time, what once felt devastating becomes manageable. This rule does not encourage reckless behavior. It encourages persistence with reflection. Losing without learning is waste. Losing with learning is growth. The difference is intention. Intention transforms pain into progress. Remember this anchor and return to it when disappointment appears. Every loss teaches. Every quit erases. Falling does not end the game. Refusing to stand does. The people who succeed are rarely the ones who avoid failure. They are the ones who keep moving after it, carrying lessons instead of shame. When you accept losing as part of the process, fear loosens its grip, and when fear loses power, progress becomes inevitable over time. 13. Time is the real currency. Most people believe money is power, but money is only stored time. Time is the real currency because once it is spent, it never returns. Two people can earn the same income and live completely different lives depending on how they treat time. One is always busy, always rushing, always tired. The other moves calmly, chooses carefully, and seems to have space in their life. The difference is not effort, it is intention. Busy people sell time. They trade hours for money without questioning the exchange. Their calendar is full, but their direction is unclear. They say yes to everything, react to urgency, and confuse movement with progress. At the end of the day, they feel exhausted but unsatisfied. Their time disappeared, but nothing meaningful was built. Intentional people invest time. They see each hour as a resource that must produce future value. They ask different questions. Is this task moving me forward or just keeping me occupied? Can this be automated, delegated, or removed? Does this activity create long-term benefit or short-term relief? These questions shape a different life. Selling time creates a ceiling. There are only so many hours in a day. No matter how hard you work, you eventually hit a limit. Investing time removes that ceiling. 1 hour spent learning a valuable skill can pay back for years. 1 hour spent building a system can save hundreds of hours later. This is how time multiplies. Busy people often feel important. Their schedule is packed, their phone never stops. But importance is not progress. Noise is not momentum. Intentional people protect their time aggressively. They say no often. They reduce meetings. They avoid distractions. They understand that focus is fragile and must be defended. Time invested compounds quietly. Reading daily feels slow, but knowledge accumulates. Practicing a skill daily feels repetitive, but competence grows. Building something consistently feels insignificant at first, but results appear suddenly. Time sold disappears immediately. Once the hour is gone, it is gone forever. This is why rich thinking values leverage. Leverage allows 1 unit of time to produce many units of result. Systems, skills, assets, and automation are all forms of time leverage. Poor thinking trades time directly for money and hopes to work longer. Rich thinking uses money and skills to buy time back. The tragedy is that many people trade their best years for short-term comfort. They stay busy but never build escape routes. Years pass quickly. Energy declines. Options shrink. Then time becomes scarce and regret becomes loud. Intentional people plan their days around high-value activities. They protect mornings. They schedule learning. They design routines that reduce waste. They understand that freedom is not having nothing to do, but choosing what matters. This rule is uncomfortable because it demands responsibility. You must decide what deserves your time. You must accept that saying yes to one thing means saying no to another. Every hour is a vote for the future you are building. Remember this anchor and return to it often. Poor thinking sells time. Rich thinking buys it. When you stop treating time strategically, everything changes. Income improves, stress decreases, direction becomes clear. The person who controls time controls their life and future freedom entirely through deliberate choices made consistently over many years without distraction. Rule 14. Your income follows your thinking. Two people can have the same skills, the same education, and the same opportunities, yet end up with very different incomes. One moves forward steadily, attracting better projects, higher pay, and more freedom. The other stays stuck, always working but rarely advancing. The difference is not effort. It is not luck. It is how they think. Thinking is not just mindset or positive attitude. Thinking is infrastructure. It is the system that shapes every decision before action happens. It decides what risks feel acceptable, what opportunities feel possible, and what problems feel worth solving. Long before money appears, thinking has already set the limits. One person thinks in scarcity. They ask, what if this fails? What will people think? What is the safest option? Their thinking is defensive. They choose comfort over growth. Even when they have skills, they underuse them. They hesitate. They wait for permission. Their income reflects that hesitation. The other person thinks in expansion. They ask, how can this grow? What can I learn from this? How can I make this better? Their thinking is constructive. They expect challenges. They assume skills can improve. They act before certainty arrives. Their income reflects that confidence. Money does not respond to desire. It responds to identity. Identity is how you see yourself in the game. If you see yourself as someone who waits, money keeps distance. If you see yourself as someone who builds, solves, and adapts, money moves closer. Not instantly, but consistently. This is why mindset alone is not enough. Thinking must translate into behavior. Rich thinking leads to better questions. Better questions lead to better decisions. Better decisions compound into better outcomes. Over time, income follows the path carved by repeated thinking patterns. People often try to change income without changing thinking. They look for tactics, shortcuts, and formulas. But tactics fail when thinking stays small. A powerful tool in the hands of limited thinking produces limited results. Infrastructure always matters more than tools. Thinking also shapes tolerance for discomfort. Growth requires uncertainty. People with limited thinking avoid discomfort and therefore avoid growth. People with expansive thinking accept discomfort as part of progress. This acceptance allows them to move faster and learn more. Identity plays a critical role here. If you identify as someone who avoids risk, your actions will protect comfort. If you identify as someone who learns through action, your behavior will reflect that. Money aligns with the person you become, not the person you wish to be. This rule explains why motivation fades, but identity lasts. Motivation pushes temporarily. Identity pulls consistently. When you think like a builder, you do not need constant encouragement. Action feels natural. Improvement feels expected. Income becomes the result of alignment, not force. Changing thinking requires exposure. You must challenge assumptions. Read ideas that stretch you. Observe people who operate at higher levels. Ask uncomfortable questions. Growth begins when your current thinking feels insufficient. This rule is the final one because it governs all others. Skills, systems, time, and resilience all depend on thinking. When thinking upgrades, everything else follows. Remember this anchor and repeat it until it becomes natural. You don't chase money, you become the person it follows. Income is not something you grab, it is something that responds. When your thinking expands, your identity evolves. And when identity shifts, money has no choice but to match the level of the person you have become over time. The board is still there. The pieces have not moved themselves. The game did not pause while you were listening. It is still running, quietly, every day, rewarding some players and ignoring others. Nothing magical changed. What changed is your awareness. You now see the rules that were always there, hidden in plain sight. You know that money is not luck. You know it is not talent. You know it is not about working harder forever. It is a skill-based game, governed by behavior, systems, time, and thinking. You have seen how players move, how they lose, how they recover, and how they win over time. Knowledge alone, however, does not move a single piece on the board. This is the moment where responsibility transfers to you, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now. The question is simple and uncomfortable. Now that you know the rules, will you play or will you keep watching? Will you place a small move on the board or return to the safety of observation? If you choose to play, do not look for motivation. Motivation fades. Look for mastery. Mastery is built slowly, quietly, and deliberately. That is what this channel is for. Not hype, not shortcuts, not fantasy. Structure, thinking, skill. Subscribe if you want to learn how to play this game one level at a time. Subscribe if you are ready to stop consuming and start building. This is not the end of the journey. This is level 1. Now.